Well, legal gambling came to Las Vegas March 19th, 1931, and it probably tells you everything you need to know that afternoon, the lead story in the Review Journal was about the new hospital, 8th and Ogden. Las Vegans didn't think this was going to change the world. It turned out it did. The legislature made it legal for a variety of reasons, one of which was led by a Las Vegas real estate developer named Tom Carroll. Carroll was advocating legal gambling as another means of attracting investment through tourism and getting people to come here and say, wow, there are opportunities, let's invest. And there's a theory that the easy divorce law, reducing the residency requirement to 6 weeks at the same time, was part of that. Now, at the same time, Nevada then was pretty much run by a political and economic boss, George Wingfield, who tended toward the libertarian. If Wingfield had not wanted legal gambling, it probably would not have happened. So there were plenty of forces at work. And ultimately, the law passed. It takes effect March 19th, and soon they're issuing licenses. One of the first licenses went to the Northern Club at 15 Fremont Street, and that was run by the Stocker family. And Mamie Stocker was the licensee. And to this day, there's the feeling that actually she was kind of a front woman for her husband and kids who worked for the railroad. And the Union Pacific Railroad was not really enamored of the idea of its workers running a casino. But the Northern was considered the first in a lot of ways. It had already been open for a few years. It later became the Monte Carlo Club and was owned by Wilbur Clark before he started building the Desert Inn. Another of the clubs that was already there when gambling became legal was the Las Vegas Club, just down Fremont a little further, before in later years it moved to the corner of Main and Fremont. The operators there included J.W. Horden, who had been part of Block 16 for years, and a newer arrival, J. Kell Housels, who had gotten into the gambling business when he was a mining engineer in the Ely area, and as his son once put it, figured out he did better on the other side of the table. So eventually he worked his way here. The Las Vegas Club was the beginning of his investments. Another club, which opened in 29, was the Boulder Club, owned mainly by P.J. Goumand, who also owned Tule Springs and made it a divorce ranch. So what you see with the early gambling operators here is a lot of cross investment. Housels was involved in the Boulder Club. It appears Goumand was involved in the Las Vegas Club. People who you don't necessarily associate historically with the industry, and I'll explain that in a second, but also very small operations, a few tables. If there's entertainment, it's a guy on a piano in the corner because there isn't much space. This is part of the original Las Vegas town site. And the lots were not so big that you could easily buy up a bunch and create a mega resort, even if you wanted to build one at that time. Now, years ago, I co authored an article on the evolution of gaming ownership. And one of the co authors, Bo Bernhard of UNLV's International Gaming Institute, came up with the title or the hook, From Maverick to Mafia to MBA. These were the Mavericks for the most part. And they had not necessarily expected to end up in the industry here. They did not necessarily expect that it would end up being the dominant industry. But there they were. Now, a couple of things emerge as well. One is these are casinos or clubs. We're not talking about major hotel properties. The Hotel Nevada becomes the Sal Sagev. There's gambling. The hotel is small. It is still small. In 1932, P.O. Silvani opened the Apache at 2nd and Fremont. Today, that's the site of Binion's. The Horseshoe was on the ground floor for many years. The Apache Hotel was 3 stories, had the first elevator in town. We wouldn't think of it as a high rise.